Hello guys, my name is Joseph Connor and welcome to J.C.DESIGN. Let's run the intro. Welcome to today's exciting tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a parallax moving effect in Photoshop. So first thing you're going to need to do is open up Photoshop. I'll just open mine here. Then once Photoshop is open, what we need to do is we need to import our file into Photoshop, and we do this simply by going to the file and parallax motion effect, and we just drag that down to the icon Photoshop. So when Photoshop opens up, you'll have your file in Photoshop, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to unlock this layer. So we pull the lock down, and then we need to duplicate this layer, so we'll duplicate it. So now we have two versions of the layer. So the top one we're going to name Sky, and then the bottom one we'll name Buildings. And then once you've done that, the next thing we need to do is we need to go over to our tools panel on the left hand side and go to this little icon here and then pick quick selection tool, and then we need to go to the brush size and we'll just make it a little bit bigger, probably about 50 pixels. Cut the buildings out from the sky background, so just go over the sky, and it should pretty much do this automatically. It might miss a few things, so let's just zoom in a bit, and then we'll click back on the quick selection tool, and if you hold Alt you'll get a little minus, so you see the building has hasn't been cut out correctly here, so we'll go back in there and then just take that out. And then we'll make the brush a little bit smaller, I'll say probably 30 the way it came in before, and we'll just brush that back in, so it should cut it out correctly now. That looks pretty good. So then after we've done that, what we'll do is we'll hit Command and X and we will just delete the sky, so we have no sky now. And the next thing we'll do, we'll turn that layer off, and then we'll select the sky layer. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make the sky layer. We go over here to our polygon lasso, and then we simply just draw around the buildings. And then once you've done that, what we need to do is we need to go up to filter. No, we don't. We need to go to edit and then fill. And then you want to change the contents to content aware. Color adaptation, just click on that and then leave the opacity at 100% and then click OK. And then, whoa, that is very strange. Okay, that kind of went slightly wrong. Let's reverse. So I think what I need to do is I need to actually invert the mask. So we go right click and then we click on select inverse, which is basically going to select the buildings rather than the sky, if you know what I mean. So then we select on edit, then fill, and then click OK and see if that works. Okay, that worked. Okay, just remember to kind of select the inverse of your mask. I think what I was doing is I was duplicating the buildings rather than the sky. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make the aeroplane into a new layer. I don't think quick selection is going to work for this, so I'm going to use the pen tool and draw around it, and so I get some nice clean lines on the aeroplane. Then I'll make it into a new layer, and then I can animate it as well as the sky and the buildings. So let me just draw around this and I'll be back with you in a second. So now what we're going to do, if you hit P on your keyboard, you'll get the pen tool, and then what we're going to do is right click and then go down to make selection. Just click OK, and then the aeroplane is selected, or the thing that I've just drawn around is selected. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hit Command C and then Command V, and then you'll see that we have a new layer. I'll just call this plane. Okay, but when we sort of move this layer, we're going to have an aeroplane in place of the aeroplane. So we'll just turn that one off, click on the sky layer, and then we'll hit the S key. This is called the cloning tool. So if you hit S, you'll get the clone tool, and then if you hit Alt, it'll bring up this little symbol. So what the cloning tool basically does is it clones an area that you pre-select. So I kind of want to select maybe down at this cloud area, and then you see I'm cloning it now. So, and then you can just paint over the aeroplane like so. It takes a little bit getting used to, so if you play around with it, if you've never used it before, just have a bit of a play around, and it should be pretty easy. It's quite easy to use on clouds and stuff, but when it comes to like maybe a tile pattern or a brick pattern, it can get a bit more complicated. So yeah, anyway. So now we'll turn the plane back on. So now we have 3 layers. We've got the buildings, so let's just zoom out a bit. So we've got the sky, so I'll put the sky behind the buildings. So we've got a sky, buildings, and an airplane now all on separate layers. So we want to animate this now. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go to window and then down to timeline, and then we'll change the kind of layout a little bit of Photoshop. So we're gonna do some basic animation in Photoshop, and this is what this timeline will enable us to do basically. So we're gonna animate these layers. Make the timeline work, we just click on create video timeline, and we'll just pull this up slightly, and you see here we have our layers. So we've got plane, buildings, and sky. But the first thing we need to do is we need to make these all into smart objects. So we'll click on the sky, right click on the layer, and then go up to convert to smart object. And you'll see this little symbol next to the layer. This basically means that you can change the size of the layer now. I mean, like, you can transform it and it won't lose its quality. And we'll do that the same with the buildings. Convert to smart object, and then the plane, convert to smart object, like so. So we'll go down to the sky again, and I just want to make that a little bit bigger because I want to animate the movement of it. So if I animate it now, it's going to cut it off. So I'll make it a bit bigger than the frame, and we hit enter. And then we'll do the same with the buildings. So if you want to transform the building, you just hit Command T, and that'll bring up the transform tool. And then if you hold Alt, you can change the size. So we'll just hold Alt and we'll make it a tiny bit bigger, and then I can move my plane over here because I kind of want it to fly through a little bit here, but it's not going to be moving too quick. So I think the first thing that we'll do is we'll animate the plane. So if you go down to the plane layer here, click on plane, and then if you click on transform, it'll put a keyframe, and then we'll just take this to the end of the timeline, your little timeline kind of marker, and we'll grab the plane, pull it along to say here, and another keyframe will drop, and then you can see the plane is actually flying through the sky now. So we'll just play that by hitting space, and that looks pretty cool to me. So now what we need to do is we need to animate the rest. So I'll just animate so let's do that with the buildings. Same as before, click on transform, and we'll take the little timeline marker to the end, and then we will change the size of it, I guess. So maybe getting a bit bigger, so it looks like we're actually flying up through the buildings, like so. And then we hit the little, remember to hit enter to get off the transform, and another keyframe will be dropped. So then if we just play it, now it looks like we're flying up through the buildings. Looks pretty cool actually. And then we want the sky to move as well. So we do the same thing, click on the sky, click down on the little pointer, and then we click on transform. But I don't really want the sky to move as quickly as the plane or the kind of the buildings as we're moving up. So I'll just go all the way to the end. And then I'll just move the sky kind of a little bit to the right. What? Blah, 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 blah. Part 3, Photoshop. Then when you're happy with your animation, so you're happy with how everything moves and it's kind of to the right timing, then the next thing you want to do is render it. Obviously you want to get it out of Photoshop, so if you go down to this little symbol down here on the left, click on render video, and you'll be met with this panel here. Obviously rename the file, just name it whatever you want, and then we've got Adobe Media Encoder, so we're going to render it out in Adobe Media Encoder. Also select the folder. I think I'm just going to save mine to my desktop, so choose that. And then so the format is N.264, which is basically MP4, high quality. Document size is 1920 by 1280. So if you want to save it out for YouTube, save it as 1920 by 1080. Frame rate is 30 FPS, and so yeah, everything's all good, all frames. So start frame, yep, and then we just click render. So once it's rendered, it should just appear in the place that you set the folder to render to, and it should just open like any normal video file, and there you go. Thanks for making it this far, and if you liked the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing for more videos like this every week.